Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the first episode of the eXp Industrial Committee Live. And I'm here with my two co-hosts, Frankie Valley and Jabin Starnes. Say hi, guys.
Hey, what's up?
Everybody?
Happy New Year.
And we are super stoked for our guest speaker today because Henry is not only one of us, he's not only part of eXp and eXp Commercial, but he is also a broker, he is a coach extraordinaire, and he's an investor. So he actually eats, walks, talks, and breathes what he's going to be discussing with us today. But he's also, at the age of 28 years old, been involved in over $500 million worth of transactions. So who better than Henry to start us off on the right foot this year? So, and Henry, just a little background on us. We are the official industrial committee. So, eXp Commercial has been really smart and forward thinking in putting together asset class committees
Mhm.
for all of our agents to reach out to if they have questions, if they want to deal share, if they want to collaborate. So, you're looking at the industrial committee right here. And we're really happy to do it. We're really excited to kick off 2024. And really excited that we get to start with you because with your coaching experience, we want to pick your brain. We want to figure out what are the best tips and tricks on all the things and having a really successful 2024 because there's some chatter out there and it could be a little bit interesting. It might get a little dicey out there. However, we make our own destiny at the end of the day, right?
That's right.
So, with that, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Well, first off, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Super excited to be here, and Happy New Year to everybody. So, the quick snippet on me was I was the super quiet kid in the back of the room growing up. I never really aspired to do much of anything, to be honest with you. I grew up in a middle class family. I was super quiet growing up. I went through a crazy depression, suicidal thoughts, the whole nine yards. So I really struggled as a kid, and I kind of fell through the cracks of normal society. And didn't really, nothing really happened in my life at all until I was around 18, where I got my first job because I was like forced to get a job because I was so excited to play video games because it was like I could be somebody different, right? Like they judged me based on my results. That's why I loved video games. They didn't judge me based on how I look because I was always bullied for how I looked, how more of like more of my presence. So when I got a job, it was the first person who ever believed in me, right? Like my parents didn't believe in me, all this other stuff. It was like the first person who saw something different than what I look like, right? They're like, wow, this person has potential. And I never saw that for myself. And that changed everything. Within 2 years, I was running two franchises. I had 40 employees, kind of living the life, quote unquote, at 20 with no college degree. I dropped out twice. I dropped out, went back, dropped out again. But at 20 years old, I was making like 40, $50,000 a year, and I thought I made it. And then because I was like the GM, was like the highest position I possibly could achieve. And then I'm running all these P&Ls and dealing with everything as a GM would, and I'm realizing that the owner of the business was making way more money. And I was like, wait a second, I want to be him. He's never here, and I'm here 100 hours a week working for him, making 40 grand. He's making several hundred thousand. There's obviously something here. So a friend of mine was like, hey, why don't we get our real estate licenses? Because a friend of ours had lied to us about how much money he was making in the industry. I got in the industry at 20. First 2 years sucked. I lost absolutely every dollar I had ever earned. I went crazy into debt. And I thought I made the worst mistake on planet Earth because a few years into my career, I was back to, I was like $70,000 in credit card debt. I had a 550 credit score, and I was like, man, like this, this is a bad position to be in. And then I went to a Tony Robbins event, and everything changed for me. I got a coach. I put everything on credit cards that I possibly could, just because I knew that if I invested in me, it'd be really hard to screw up. And my coach said one thing that changed my life forever, which was if you could focus on one thing for the next 10 years of your life, what would it be? And I knew it was real estate. That was almost 8 years ago. So, I've been very blessed over the last few years to have some decent success, been aligned with some amazing people who have taught me what I know now, and excited for what the future holds.
I love that. That's so cool. And I think that a lot of the things that you said, a lot of people can resonate with. I know, like personally, I landed in real estate at the age of 17 on accident. And I found that it was just fascinating to me. And there's so many different ways that you could rise up in the industry and be whatever you wanted to be, right? There's so many different avenues to be successful in real estate. So happy for you that, you went to that Tony Robbins event and that first employer took that leap of faith on you.
I
What a
love
great
what he I love
story.
what he said too, Henry, about you put the coaching on the credit card.
Yeah.
I mean, that's you're making you're hedging a bet against yourself, and I love that. That was a really really cool story.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I believe self-development will is the key to everything.
Hmm.
Every day, right? Every damn day. We talk about all kinds of things. Not only just getting into deep stats on industrial, like nationwide, but we talk about a lot of things on this channel. And honestly, like if investing in yourself isn't in your daily time blocking schedule, you're missing the boat. It's a journey. It never ends, right? Life is constantly throwing you different obstacles. And again, welcome 2024, right? Like this is not 2023. This is not 2022. We're going to have different challenges and different opportunities. So, what are some of the best tips and tricks to go out there and actually kill it? So, some of the things that Henry absolutely specializes in is mindset, cold calling, investment sales, working with and thinking like investors, underwriting, scheduling, tips on earning your first $100,000. Who doesn't want to earn their first $100,000 if you haven't, right? Then scaling past that and going beyond it. Team building, sales and conversion, data, where to find it, networking, marketing, social media. So this is the guy. He's got the goods. So with that, Henry, where do you want to start?
Where do I want to start? It's a good one. Wherever you'd like, you're in charge.
Well, let's do it. Spend a couple minutes on mindset, right? So, being that we specialize in industrial warehouse logistics, uh, getting goods manufacturing from one end of the country to the other, and thinking of through all of those things, and knowing the some of the challenges that might be coming online in 2024 with higher interest rates, with maybe some credit and liquidity problems. So, what type of mindset tips might you have for us?
Yeah, so for mindset, number one, I believe that which we've all heard before is that your environment is everything. Like who you're spending a lot of time with is really going to rub off on you, right? So I'm constantly very cognizant of the people I'm spending time with, where I'm not just going to get lunch with any type of investor. I'm not just going to, go meet at any property just willy-nilly. I want to meet with and only work with people who are elevating me, right? Who are bringing me, who are taking me to the next level, right? I want to work with, higher level clientele, people who are looking to buy 3, 5, 10 properties per year. I want to, I want to be very, very careful with where I'm spending my time. So that's number one. Just be very cognizant that, you will be the sixth of any 5 people that you spend time with. So be very cognizant of that. Number two, this is a very long game. Life. My philosophy is life is long. Life is not short. Life is very long. And if you want to be very successful, it takes a lot of compound interest on your efforts. So it's thinking very, very long term. And I'm not saying don't work hard in the, it's like life is a marathon, but no one ever told you had to walk it, right? It's like, you should be sprinting every day. But it is a marathon, right? It is a very long game. And it's like, I'm committed to this industry for the next 40 years. I'm so excited to be a part of this industry for, a 50-year run for what I can create, right? So it's everything I'm doing it in the basis of like, I'm going to do this for the next, 20, 30, 40 years. Like I will never say yes to anything that I'm not committed to doing it for at least a few decades because I know it's going to take time to be successful. And lastly, I would probably say your clients, like my clients, have become my greatest mentors. These are incredibly successful people who own, millions of dollars, tens of millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars, if not billions of dollars that you get to chat with on a very regular basis. And instead of treating them like a client, I become their friend. And these people have taught me everything that I know today. And I would be nothing without my clients, who have become my mentors and great friends. And to the point where like I'm invited to holiday events, I'm invited to family events. Like I'm a close friend first and a broker second, who happens to be a great broker, right? So just taking it from that perspective.
That's awesome. I wrote down those three keys. If anybody out there, our visitors, thank you for joining us again. But if you guys have any takeaways, put them in the chat. I mean, literally, I love the fact that you're talking about it's a long game. I think in life in general, and especially in real estate, especially for new people getting into real estate or people, there's a lot of people transitioning from residential to commercial right now. Have you noticed that?
Yes, of course.
It's a big trend right now. And I think that as human beings, we want instant gratification, right? got to understand we're farmers and we're hunters, right? You know, you've got to plant those seeds and you've got to wait for them to harvest, but you got to be working at it every single day. And this is a long game. There's very rarely instant gratification in real estate in general, commercial real estate, I think specifically.
100%.
So,
And I just love to point out too for those listening, you know, that's a big misconception that a lot of people have coming in this industry is that client broker relationship. It's very transactional. It's very, I'm here for a purpose. I'm in, I'm out. And I love that you hit on that, that you've made your best clients your very close friends, and they've become like family in a sense. You travel with them, you're invited to family events, parties, birthdays, New Year's, Christmas parties. That's where you start to really distinguish yourself as a industry leader. And I want everyone on here to really take that in, because I meet a lot of people, Pam and Frankie and Henry, that they don't treat it like that. They treat it just as like a transaction, and they're in and they're out. And I love that you've done that and built your business that way. It's relationships and the human elements, everything in this business. So that's super exciting.
yep. And then we have a couple notes on here. So blessed to work with expert clients. I agree. That's been my new mantra this year. I'm very picky about who I'll work with. Time is one thing I will never get back. So I'm getting better at saying no, thank you. Which has actually, it's amazing, you know, just let the universe, just say no a couple times and watch what the universe will bring you, right? It's okay.
Mm-hmm.
You're just opening yourself up for better things. And then, Vu, love that. Such a great mentality to see our clients as our greatest mentors. And it's true. You know,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of times your clients are going to have way more experience at something than you do. So sit back and learn, pick their brain. So let's move on to cold calling if there's nothing else. So, I mean, cold calling, like, we've got Frankie on here. I call him the Britney Spears of cold calling. He'll put that headset on and he like gets jazzed. He loves it. I think he's sick. I think he needs a mental health check. I'm not a fan of cold calling, but it's something that you literally have to do in this business. So, Henry, talk to us a little bit about that.
I've never heard that term before, but I love it. The Britney Spears of cold calling, I love it. I am a huge fan. Obviously, if anyone's seen my content, I'm a huge fan of cold calling. Been doing it almost since day one in the industry, and I was terrified to do it, to be honest with you. Like I was, it took me a long time to finally jump into it. I was very resistant, and now I've made over 1 million cold calls throughout my career, and now I teach people how to do it as well. I think that cold calling is this thing that we kind of we overthink a lot, right? Like to me, it's like we are constantly calling everyone in our world, right? You know, Pam, you can, you know, take your husband or anyone's significant other. They were a stranger before they became who they are today, right? And it's like we are constantly terrified of quote talking to strangers over the phone. When it's like everyone in your life who I like my fiance today was a stranger, not, you know, a few years ago, right? Like I had no idea who she was. And I think that cold calling is just the simplest, fastest, easiest way to get in touch with the most people in the shortest time frame, where you can be the most effective with your time. Because, and listen, like, you know, I'm a huge fan of calling in general, right? Like, it's not just about cold calling, right? You can call it whatever you want. I call it prospecting. It's lead generation. You got to do it every day. You know, and I love Alex Hormozy. I have his hat somewhere. Anyways, like Alex Hormozy talks about how, like, you know, like you got the core four strategies of quote lead generation, right? And one of them is cold reach out, right? Like again, like I'm not saying that you shouldn't be calling your warm leads, right? Or your sphere of influence, your database, like of course, obviously. But I am saying that every single day, and I did this for almost 4 years straight, 6.5 days a week, I would prospect for a minimum of 3 to 4 hours a day every day, right? Cold call. Okay, this was beyond my sphere of influence, beyond everything else. And it's like what happens is that you end up starting to separate yourself from other people. The amount of opportunities you come across, like my teams today, we make between 8 and 10,000 calls a day every day. It's very hard to compete with us because the amount of volume we're doing, right? Where we come across more opportunities than most people. We generate more leads than most people because the amount of output that we're putting in here is insane. It's insane, right? So it's like if you want to be successful this industry, I really believe that prospecting in general, call it warm, call it cold, I don't care. Pick up the phone and dial 100 people minimum a day. And if you go, I don't have enough warm clients to call, then pick up the phone and cold call, right? Because if you're doing anything less than 100, because like in my philosophy, it's like, okay, you dial 100 people every day. You're not speaking to 100, right? Not everybody answers the phone. So what are you speaking to? 10, 20, maybe 30 people at most? And if you think speaking to 10 or 20 people every day is enough, it's just not, right? It's not even close to enough. So it's like, because like think about it, if you call 20 people, how many leads do you think you're actually going to get out of 20 conversations? You know, it's just not enough. It's like our minimum requirement every day is 3 warm leads a day, every day, right? Per agent. So it's like if you're generating 3 warm leads every day, Monday through Friday, that's 15 times 4 weeks in a month on average. It's 60 warm leads a month. It's going to be really freaking hard not to make great money, right? But what happens constantly is like I was speaking to somebody and they're like, hey, I'm like, how many conversations are you having a day? They're like, I don't know, between 2 and 3, maybe 5 a day. I'm like, I don't like. Let's just take a second. How much money do you actually think you're going to earn this year? Speaking to 2 to 3 or 4 or 5 people a day. It's just, if you really take a moment and break down the numbers, you'll realize that speaking to the masses, speaking to a lot of people only gives you a higher opportunity to close more business, right? So I'm a huge fan of prospecting. You can call it cold, you can call it warm, you can say whatever it is, but pick up the phone and speak to as many people as you possibly can every day. And I promise you'll be grateful you did it.
I love that. And you can get super strategic with it too, right? I mean, let's say you're working with a client that is looking for space. Maybe you're representing a tenant who's looking for some industrial space. Well, I think too many times people get the concept, agents get the concept that, the inventory is listed somewhere. Inventory is everywhere. It doesn't matter if it's listed or if it's not listed. Guess what, people? It's inventory, right? So you can reverse engineer these cold calls, like go find that space for your client, right? Not just a lot of people like to put little alerts or searches in LoopNet or CoStar or Crexy or Reonomy or wherever you're looking and waiting for that magical little notification like, here you go, here's the space. Well, guess what? When you get that notification, so do 500 other brokers in town that are looking for it. So go find the space by cold calling strategically. I mean, and Frankie, you could talk for a second, or Jabin, on strategically cold calling. I mean, you could go
Yeah.
into Reonomy and you could literally put in information to where you're looking for that size space with leases that are going to expire within the next, I don't know how many, but Frankie, you're the expert. Go for it.
Yeah, I mean, so a lot of it with me, first off, is just mental conditioning, right? You got to train yourself to love whatever you're doing every day. So cold calling has been that for me. But yeah, so depending on what you're doing, whether you're calling tenants, business owners, or investors, say you have a listing, it's an old AC company. The first thing I'm doing is calling other AC companies. That's the most efficient way to get that space released for that owner. And just same thing across the board. It gets very specialized, especially when properties are already outfitted to certain uses. It's the best way to get it released the fastest is to get somebody who needs that exact same outfit, whether it's cold storage, if they're logistics, they need a dock. I mean, a lot of these companies require the same type of things, whether they're semi trucks, they need a roll up door, whatever the criteria is. But yeah.
And it's
I love it.
like just to keep in mind that, guys, we're in 2024. People who've been doing this industry have been in this industry for decades upon decades upon decades. Do you understand how easy it is today to get business in comparison to what it was years ago? How easy we have it in this day and age? It's insanity.
So
Like
true.
I just interviewed Bob Knackle, okay, a guy that's been in the industry for 40 plus years. You think they had Reonomy or CoStar 40 years ago? Like you're out of your mind. Like the fact that I can go on Reonomy or CoStar, pull a lead list that is so specific to what I'm looking for, and then have the next person on the phone within 15 minutes. It's ridiculous. We have an amazing opportunity in front of us, and we're like trying to make it more difficult. It's like, let's move forward, not backwards, right? Make it
Exactly.
easy.
I love that. The only other thing I wanted to point out, and guys, put your comments in the chat. The only other thing I love that you said is that, listen, at the end of the day, we're information brokers, right? And the broker with the most information wins. And so there is no better way to get information than calling people and talking to them. So, you're going to have a lot of people that don't want to talk to you. Get over it. It's life. It's cold calling. It's warm calling. It's whatever calling. But you're going to get somebody on the phone that's going to give you information that no other broker has, and you could do something with that and you could make money. So we are information brokers. The broker with the most information wins, and calling is the best way I've ever found to get that information. Um, if there's nothing else, let's move on to thinking like an investor. I love that topic.
So my philosophy is a multi-tiered approach to every deal. Okay. I don't go into it saying I would like to take a listing. I don't go into it saying I want to buy this building. I don't go into it saying, I'm going to broker this deal. My intention with every deal is to find the best possible way to make the most money and make it a win-win-win for everyone involved. So when I'm prospecting, I prospect as an investor, because just like any one of you guys, because I commonly get people like, well, I don't have the money. When I first started, I didn't have the money either. Okay. However, if you found a great deal that was 50% on the dollar, right? 50 cents on the dollar, would you raise money to try to buy it? I would imagine you would. Like if you knew it was a fantastic deal, like I know for an absolute fact, you could find a way to get the money, right? So my philosophy is when I'm making a phone call, I call as an investor first to buy the property. Okay. I make an offer as an investor to buy the property. Based on their response, okay, I then adjust accordingly based on the fact that like, hey, like if I can get this deal at a great price, I now have decisions. I have a choice now. I can choose what the best course of action is for this deal. And obviously if they come back to me and they want a crazy, ridiculously high number, it probably is going to be a listing, right? However, if they come back to me and they accept my low price, which has only happened like a handful of times, I buy the property, right? I made an offer on it. I make the joke about one of the first properties I ever bought. It was a 10 family. And I went to go tour the property. I cold call. He goes, yeah, I'm considering selling. I said, I'll be there. I'll be actually in the area later today. Are you going to be around? He goes, yeah, I wasn't going to be in the area. I just said that. He says, yeah, I tore his 10 family. After we toured the property, I'm sitting on the front porch with him. And I said, listen, I could probably make sense of making an offer at X price. I made him an offer. Okay. A ridiculously low offer. And he said, I could probably make sense of that. And then he accepted it. We got a deal done. We closed less than 60 days later. And that was it. And like, again, we bought this deal at probably 50 to 60 cents on the dollar. I mean, like, we bought it for 1.35 million. And we got an offer, a few offers this past year for over $2 million. We didn't do anything. We've only, we've only owned it or whatever. Like, we didn't do a lot with it. But my point is, you get to have choices when you think like this, right? So we think like investors, right? And obviously I'm in investment sales. Obviously it's a little bit different when you're doing tenant rep or anything like that. But I go in as an investor, and then based off the offer that I make and their response to it, I can then adjust accordingly. Okay. So if they want to accept my offer, great, I'll raise money and I'll buy it. If they come back to me and they, give me a little bit of, let's say they're negotiating, they counter me at an X price, and I know at X price, I probably have a buyer for it. Why would I list the property if I already have a buyer for it? There's absolutely zero reason to list the property, right? In my opinion, I think every property on LoopNet it's a complete waste of time. Right? Every property on LoopNet is a complete waste of time. Every property is overpriced. 99% of properties are overpriced on LoopNet, right? 99% of every listing, I think, is BS. Like, it's just, there's no reason for a broker to list a property if it's appropriately priced, because you're probably just going to have a buyer for it, right? So I'm not in the mindset of ever just listing properties for sale for any reason whatsoever, because if I can't sell it to my investors, fine, I'll list the property, but 9 times out of 10, it's because it's overpriced, right? And guess what? I also don't want to think about it like this. You list a property that's overpriced. Okay. You know it's overpriced. You've told the seller it's overpriced. What do you think is going to happen when you list the property? You're going to get realtors who call you, who distract you. And then they say, what? Your property's overpriced. Thanks for the heads up. I appreciate that. I've been saying that for months to my client. I don't want those phone calls. So I give every listing to other agents on my team because I don't want those phone calls. Right? Because I already know what they're going to say. I already know it's not worth 3 million. I know it's worth 2 because I offered him 1.8. Right? So it's just having a different mindset to it, which I think will be super helpful. Like our philosophy on our team is we make an offer 100% of the time, every time. So we get a lead, I make an offer on a property. So I mean, I'm making somewhere between 5 and 15 offers a day, every day.
This also goes back to the mindset of be careful who you spend your time with, right? Like, do you want to spend your time with sellers who are just so pie in the sky that they're unreasonable? They're going to suck the life out of you, suck the time out of you. And then at the end of the day, when that's a failed sale, it's going to be your fault, right? I don't know. That's been my experience. So we have a philosophy on my team. We don't take overpriced listings. However, we do have a question. We got a hand up. Go for it.
Hi, Henry. You had mentioned about cold calling, and basically, I like that you are, acting as an investor. I mean, you are an investor. So for those of us who maybe don't have that extensive investment experience in the commercial space, how do we get around that question? Because the sellers are going to want to qualify us and ask, what experience do you have in that space? How should I respond as a new
Sure.
investor in the commercial side?
Yeah, so when I started doing this, I had an investor client that I would make offers with. Right. So like I immediately would bring the deal to them saying like, hey, like let's just make an offer on this property. I have had a lot of success working with a lot of syndicators because like their entire business is buying properties, right? Like if they're not buying properties, they're not making money. So they need to buy properties. So what I have found is by working with a few of these very, very active investors, you call saying, hey, I'm working with, right? I work with an investment group. I am not the, right? I say this, even say this sometimes today, right? When I'm talking to a guy who's got a $50 million building. Hey, I work with an investment group that's constantly looking to move some money for, for tax purposes through a 1031. I work with family offices. Just curious if you consider selling your property. They go, yeah, we're open. Can you send us a proof of funds? Yeah, I'm going to call my investment group who has a proof of funds that I can provide. It's not going to have my name on it. I don't have 50 million in cash in the bank, right? So it's like, I will say that I'm associated with X, right? You don't have to claim, like, I'm not telling people to lie on the phone. That's not the purpose here. This is to say, hey, I'm associated with X. And if it makes you feel more comfortable, you can say, hey, I'm a real estate agent who represents X. Right?
Awesome. I love that.
So I don't have to speak out of turn.
I love that. Around here, we call that third party validation, right? You don't always have to be the end all be all. You got to start somewhere, but you can connect yourself with investors or other buyers or other brokers and basically be validated through their experience, through their wealth, through their ability to provide proof of funds. So amazing. I love that. Let's see if we have anything else in the chat before we move on. And I love that think like an investor. Like I think a lot of times too, well, I mean, one of the phrases for it would be commission breath, right? Like sometimes brokers are so excited for the opportunity of actually being able to get a listing or get a client. They're not thinking in the best terms of what's best for the overall property or transaction. It's more just like get that signature on the bottom line because if I get that listing, I'll make a commission. You really have to think like the investor and think things through. And that's when you really start earning the big bucks.
Yeah, I'm just testing motivations. That's the whole purpose of making an offer. I'm just testing their motivation. You said you're open to selling. Okay, great. I'm testing your motivation. I'm going to make you an offer, which by the way, my offers, like everyone's like, oh, they're super low ball offers. I'm making an offer in which at any price in which I know I will close. That's not a low ball offer. It's a serious offer, right? Just because a seller wants $15 million for an $8 million building and I offer them 6 doesn't mean it's a low ball offer, right? It's legitimate. It's like, they're going to get very similar offers if they listed the property for sale. Right. So it's just, I like to test that motivation as fast as possible so that I can move very quickly in accordance.
Mm-hmm. I love it. So let's move on to social media. So as professional industrial brokers, like how does social media fit into what we do? Does it fit into what we do? I think a lot of us struggle through this, right? What we love the fact that we could get exposure out there, but how does it really fit into being a commercial broker and using social media?
Yeah, so I want to be very clear. Social media I feel like a lot of people don't use it appropriately because what I've found is that depending on what you're posting, you're going to attract X type of avatar. Okay. My audience, like I know for a fact, my audience on social media, I am targeting brokers because I'm looking to recruit for my team. Okay. I'm looking to build a team. Okay. So the content I put out is not to target investors. I'm not targeting investors, or my content would look differently. Right. So depending on what you are looking for, what your goal is what your content needs to replicate. Right. So think about who you're targeting. If you would like to have more clients, if social media is only for hypothetically targeting and trying to work with investors, you also need to realize what investor is actually on Instagram? Not most, right? Let's just be honest, right? Maybe they're a little bit on YouTube searching up certain things, or more likely than not, they're going to be on LinkedIn, right? Like a big time investor would probably be on LinkedIn unless you're like very close with them. And then maybe, just maybe, like they're not scrolling on freaking YouTube or Instagram or Facebook. Like that's not what these big time investors are doing, right? So you need to go where your audience is, because if you're just posting on Instagram and you think that you're going to be able to post images of just sold of a property and think that you're going to have a bunch of phone calls, you're incorrect. Okay. Most people who are following you are other brokers. That's what you're attracting by posting just listed, just sold, under contract. That's not what is going to attract a seller of somebody who's got, let's just say a portfolio of $20 million worth of industrial properties. That's not what's going to attract them. What's going to attract them is educating the market of saying, hey, do you own, like speaking to that type of client? Hey, if you own industrial properties, here are 3 ways to increase the value of your property, X, Y, Z. Hey, if you own industrial properties and you have some vacancy, here's the fastest way to get tenants, X, Y, Z. Speaking to them directly, speak to that avatar, because posting other type of content is going to attract a different type of avatar. Right. So, and just being very cognizant, everything you post is needs to be specific content to a type of avatar you're targeting. Okay. And I'll give you an idea. I spend over $100,000 a year running my social media. Okay. I have a large team that handles it. Lots of VAs, full-time people, right? It's a freaking production. We post 60 pieces of content a week across all platforms, right? So it's like, it's not just out there willy-nilly. I spend hours and hours and hours every week recording content for social. Right? It also can be a lot easier than that. I didn't start this way. You literally can go on Zoom. This is what a lot of my content is, because I get made fun of all the time. You're making video, if you're so successful, why are you making YouTube content in your bedroom? I'm like, I'm in my waterfront condo in Miami Beach. Okay. Like I work from home. What do you want me to do about it? So what I do is I record on Zoom. Okay. And I just make my calls. Okay. I'm being productive, right? Every day I'm making my calls. Just record yourself making your calls, depending on who you want to. I'm saying this is what I'm doing because I want to attract agents to part of my team. And I make my calls on Zoom, and then I give that content to an editor. They edit it and they post it for me. Okay. Very easy. I didn't do anything extra. And you can pay a VA, freaking $10, $20, $30 for a video. Right. So it does not have to be expensive. You don't have to spend $100,000 a year. I don't recommend it, because I'm telling you also that like my social media, even to this day, I'm telling you right now, like it's not like it's been this huge windfall of money because I have a decent following, right? It is a very long game. Remember, like we talked about, I literally said to my team, I said, I'm committed to being on social for the next 20 years. I don't need to make money today, because I know that if I play the long game, I'm gonna win over time, right? So just having a very long-term aspect to it, posting frequently, understanding your audience, and creating content regularly directed to an avatar that you're actually looking to attract, right?
I love that. My brain is exploding. First thing is I've got a couple people out there that I absolutely love. You mentioned Alex Hermosi. Frankie and I had the opportunity to meet him once. He actually ended up looking at one of our spaces. I was totally
awesome.
fangirling. I lost it. I didn't even know. I forgot everything about the space. But Patrick Bet-David,
I love Patrick.
Patrick's amazing, right? So I had the opportunity to sit in an audience for him once, and he was telling us his story, and he said, I decided forever ago, he was younger than you, and he said, I decided that I'm going to post a video a day. It's going to be 2 minutes with Pat. He goes, but I'm going to do it for a year. He's like, every single day, 2 minutes with Pat. Well, his videos ended up being like 20 minutes with Pat, and his VAs kept getting mad at him, and they were like, you can't be lying to people anymore. Like, this is not 2 minutes with Pat, right? But he said, I don't care if they hate it. He said, I don't care if I don't get one subscriber on YouTube. I'm going to do it for 1 year. Well, we all know what happened to Patrick Bet-David after just being committed, but he knew that it was a long game, right? He knew he wasn't going to get instant gratification. Now he's got, I don't know, millions of followers and subscribers. I think it's super interesting. We need somebody to mute out there.
Justin, you mind muting your mic, please?
Thank you. I think it's super interesting too. Like you were talking about delivering the information. So YouTube has officially outranked Google as a search engine. So when people want to figure out how to do something, or like, let's just say somebody doesn't understand cap rates, they're now going to YouTube before they're going to Google and they're learning there, right? Or if somebody wants to move. In fact, we have lots of people who are looking at moving to Vegas, and there's a couple YouTube channels that are just phenomenal and killing it, and they're actually very active on those channels before they call us to even ask like the local realtor broker expert, about Las Vegas. They're discovering it for themselves on YouTube. So if you had to narrow that whole thing down into like 4 or 5 points, um, and somebody was starting from ground zero, like if your social media is kind of like all over the place. The other thing, I should go back to this other point of Patrick, but David, he was get very specific. Like he thinks that most people out there marketing themselves on social media or trying to market themselves on social media, they're so afraid that they're going to miss somebody that they keep everything very generic. And it's like they'll post, like you said, they'll put it on Instagram, they'll put it over here. And it's just this very, very generic widespread because they're afraid that they're going to miss somebody. And his philosophy is no, you get as specific as possible because there are enough of those people looking for exactly what your message is to find you and make you successful. You can be successful together,
Yeah.
So if we had to break that down into like 4 or 5 points, what would it be? Like step number 1 is decide what your message is and who you're targeting.
So, quick 5 points. Number 1, commit to doing it for the next 10 years. Just know that
Got
like it is a long game. Commit to the next 10 years. Post it like and just know that like just like Patrick had done, posting every day for 10 years, you'll eventually have a good audience. Okay. That's number 1. Number 2, get very clear on who you're trying to attract. Okay, get very clear on your avatar. Again, my content is not to attract an investor. Have I had investors reach out to me? Yes, of course. It's not my ideal because I mostly have realtors who reach out to me because again, I'm looking to build a team, right? That's why I create the content I do. That was the plan day one. Okay. So I'm following that plan and will continue for the next 10 years. And we're starting to, now after a number of years, like my content's getting a little bit more broad. Like I'm starting to do a little bit more shows and starting to attract a little bit broader of an audience. But for a very long time, I've been very, very niche. So get very clear on the avatar you're trying to attract. Okay. Next, post video. It's a video world right now. Posting a freaking picture isn't good enough anymore. Okay. Like it's just on Instagram, no one wants to look at a picture anymore. Okay. It's not what works. Okay. Video content is king and will remain king for quite some time. Okay. Video content. So record content and just know like my first video wasn't freaking amazing. Okay. Everyone now is like, oh, you're so professional. You can do it. You can wing it. You don't even need a script, whatever. Yeah. I've been doing this for freaking years, people. Right. And I'm also a very outgoing person. So like, and honestly, what's funny is like, I don't even rewatch my content. I'm like the kind of person where I think it's cringe to watch my content. So I'll record it and just send it to my team and I'm saying post it. Even me, I don't rewatch my content. My team handles it. I have a guy who specifically vets my content, right? I just don't do that because I would redo my content 1,000 times over until it's quote perfect, right? So I just get rid of it. I get somebody else to post it. Whatever. I don't even care. And half the time when I've ever rewatched my content, I'm like, oh my God, that's like a little weird. I would have done it this way. I would have done it that way, whatever. But just post the content, record the content, post it. Okay. Next, focus on one platform and then go to everything, right? I literally repurpose all my content. I focus on YouTube. YouTube is our main focus. And then we repurpose everything we post for YouTube across every other platform. Okay. So focus on one single platform and then repurpose. Make it really easy for yourself. Make it easy to win. I'm doing 75 hard. So I'm drinking like freaking water, ton of freaking water right now. But I with my workouts and everything, I make it easy for myself to win, right? I make it easy. And the last thing I'll say is when it comes to content, realize that the views are not that freaking important. Okay. Like views are not that important. My content is very niche. So it's like when I have 200 people watch a video or 1,000 people watch a video or whatever it is, I am having 200 to 300 or whatever it is, like whatever that number is. That is very niche people. It's not like any person's right. I'm not Mr. Beast where everyone on planet Earth is watching it to get entertained. Okay. My content is not entertaining. I have educational content that we try to entertain. Like we try to make entertaining educational content to our niche. Right. So it's like, I know that even if I have only 200 people who watch a video, which might not be a lot of views, but I know that's 200 people who are my target audience, right? And that's plenty. So it's not about likes, it's not about views, it's not about any of that, right? Like obviously, like I've found that like, you know, the more you spend time on a, you know, quality video, you're going to do better with thumbnails and, you know, the titling and the tags and all this other stuff, which is just, there's so much freaking to it. Just get started and commit to a long game, and you can just make it, you know, make it better a little bit, make tweaks over time.
I absolutely love that. And what you're talking about is so simple, right? Like if you do have a VA, and we're doing a little bit of that. We don't do it nearly as well as we should be doing. And that's one of the commitments that I'm going to make right now, is to do that better. But you take a long video like this, you can repurpose this so many different ways, right? Get it in your VA's hands, let her chop it up, right? Jabin, your VA is great at this. How does she handle it?
She, I mean, I do that too. So we'll take a video. I'll sometimes give her some parameters or like timestamps of parts, you know, like, okay, you know, if it's super long, here's a couple areas that I want to focus on. And then, yeah, she'll go in, for us, for Pam and Frankie, we've used it. She'll just chop it up, and then add captions and do everything. She'll do some custom work if we need it. And then, yeah, post it, you know, kind of optimize it for different platforms. But
And I want to stress one thing real fast. I had
Yeah.
one video, it was a YouTube short that just got to like 2.5 million views. Okay. So I want to stress you something. It wasn't a video that I was particularly proud of. Okay.
Interesting.
It was like, I watched the video and I watched it hundreds of times because I'm like trying to understand why this went viral. I
Yeah.
do not even understand why it went viral. It wasn't a great video. The editing wasn't fantastic. It wasn't like the thing that I was like, oh, wow, this is an unbelievable video. I know this is going to go viral. It was like one of those random videos where I was like, I can't believe we even posted this. And that got 2.5 million
Wow.
views.
That's
right? Across all
crazy.
platforms, like 3.5 million. It's just like, you don't know.
Yeah.
I'm over indexing on posting a lot of content, knowing that things will take off when they're supposed to.
That's good. That's really good.
I love that. And so a little tip for you guys out there, based on exactly what Henry just said, don't date your stuff. Don't date it at all, because videos are passive prospecting that can live forever on these sites, right? Especially YouTube. So Henry, you might have posted that thing 2 years ago, right? Why is it going viral now? Who knows? Who cares? People want the information today, and they found it, and there it goes, right? And the minute you start dating it, especially like in your thumbnails and stuff like that, you can start losing people, and your chance of going viral is going to go down drastically. At least that's what I've heard. I haven't gone viral yet, but I say yet. So
I had one video. All right.
Frankie had a great video. So one thing, like, especially if you're very professional and you're looking kind of like social media is something that, you know, I don't have room for social media. I'm a big commercial broker and I deal in, you know, big box spaces or whatever. Just understand that it could play a role in anybody's career. I believe, you know, Frankie likes to do Loom tutorials, which I think is just so smart, right? Like, in fact, he did one on Reonomy, just sitting at his desk. And Loom is one of those tutorial overlays you can get for free. It's an app, you can get it for free. And what it does is it shows you working in the little corner and your screen is up, right? And he literally just took people through Loom or through Reonomy and taught them how to find phone numbers to cold call people. And that video has gone crazy on YouTube. And it's silly, like you said, zero production cost, zero really time and effort involved, maybe 10 minutes. But for some reason, people want brokers want the information of how to find contact information to cold call, and he delivered it, right? Just deliver information, people. There's so many different ways to go about it. And the only other thing I would add to that is, like, Henry, you're fabulous, right? But you're you. And it would do me no good to go out and try to imitate everything you do, because it wouldn't be authentic to me. So I think at the end of the day, when you're listening to this and you're building your social media plan for the year, you have to be authentic to who you are, or it's just not going to come through on video. It's just not.
So in my opinion, I'll say like this, okay? Anybody, right? I mean, really quickly on my phone, you can go to YouTube and you can literally look up any person you'd like to emulate. I would try to find 3 to 5 people who are like, I love their content. I would love to, quote, emulate what they're doing, okay? You go on YouTube, and then I would find the 3, 5, or 10 videos on their channel, because what you can do is, like, I'll go to myself as an example, okay? You go to my channel, you go to videos by popular, and you can click on, like, you know, again, I know this is really tiny, but you can see by popular on my phone, you can see all of the videos that have the most most amount of views. Okay. And then what I would say is like, oh, okay, well, clearly people are searching this type of content, right? And I would try to find 3 or 5 people where you can find all their popular videos, and then you do your own spin on the video, right? And it's like, I'm not saying be inauthentic, because hypothetically Patrick and David made a video and it went viral and whatever, about X type of topic, but you give your spin, your opinion on X topic. People are looking up X topic, and now you can write your own spin. And it's like a lot of people are just like, well, maybe I don't have a lot of success, or maybe I don't have any of this. Just talk about what you're experiencing. You don't have to lie on social media. It's not what it's about. Like, I mean, there's too many people who just claim to be gurus and BS on that on social media. You don't need to be that. But what you can do is you can say like, hey, instead of educating people on hypothetically how to make more money or whatever, you can be like, hey, today I was making calls and I had this happen. This was my situation. This was the objection. This is how I overcame it. If you're looking to get better at prospecting, this is what has worked for me, right? As an example, right? This is what has worked for me, right? It's not about like saying like, hey, you should do this, right? It's saying like, hey, this is what I've done. This is my result. And I think, again, if it was me, this is what I'd recommend.
I love it. So we are at the time frame where we would typically take questions from our guests out there. However, there's a bunch of other topics. So you guys speak up. I mean, we can go to talking about underwriting deals, which I think is super important.
Sure.
Talking about steps to earning your first 100,000, sales and conversion. What do we want to do? I want to hear from you guys. What do you want to hear about from Henry? Go ahead and open your mics and just go ahead and yell it at us.
I have a quick question. Well, I think probably relatively quick. Curious to hear how you structure your team so that you're able to focus on the things that you want to focus.
Yeah. So team structure, I'm a huge fan of being the biggest producer on your team. Okay. Number one. Okay. I don't just hire to hire bodies. Like, just because I have a lot of people who reach out to me saying like, I get a bunch of 20-year-old something kids who call me and say like, hey, I really like to work on your team. I'm not looking to recruit just anybody, and I don't need people. I want the right people. Right. And it's like, so when you're starting out, I would say get to around $100,000 or 80 to 100 grand, then hire a transaction coordinator on a per transaction basis. Okay. And that person, my transaction, this is exactly what I did. Okay. My transaction coordinator took me from $10,000 to $20,000 a month to $50,000 to $80,000 a month. One hire. Okay. One hire. So now I have one employee. Okay. And it's a part-time person. They don't have to work 100 hours a week, especially in commercial. Like, it's different than residential. You're going to do a lot of business. Like in commercial, you're going to only close a few deals a year, and you can pay like $1,000, $2,000 per transaction if just to make them stick with you for long, right? Because you're not closing a bunch of deals. Right. And especially when you're getting a commission check for $100,000, $1,000 is nothing. Okay. So get a transaction coordinator. You don't need to hire a bunch of salespeople, which I have over 20 at this point. We're like, you don't need that until you are earning something in the vicinity of like $500 to $1 million a year. Because imagine if you hire an agent at 100, you're making 80 to 100 grand, and you hired a TC, right? And you're only making like 80 to $100,000. What on planet Earth can you really teach somebody how to do? Right? I'm just being honest. Like, you have not had any crazy level of success. You've closed a few deals. It's not time to hire a huge sales team. Okay. It's focus on your own production first, right? I got to $1 million+ in GCI before I would ever consider hiring more people. Right. And even at this point now, it's like, I'm only hiring the right people. I don't need people to make phone calls. I have plenty of people who make phone calls. I need the right people who want to friggin' build a friggin' empire with me, right? Who want to go very far, want to grow something to massive, right? So it's like, those people only want to follow somebody because like they're not going to, if their goal is to make 300 grand and you've only ever made 100, they're not going to join you or stay for very long. They might join you day one, but they're going to leave very quickly because your goals do not encompass more people than yourself, right? Your vision has to be so big that many people can fit in your vision, right? So when it comes to building a team, you don't have to rush, right, to grow this huge organization. I rushed years ago and I had a team of 15 or 16 people. I had a massive payroll, $40,000 a month payroll, and a bunch of young kids who weren't making any phone calls because I was really, I just cared about numbers and all this BS. I care about profit today. A person you hire should make me a lot more money. Okay. And if they don't, it's not the right hire. Goodbye. Right. So it's like, be very cognizant, hire a transaction coordinator first, get yourself to a few $100,000 per year, get into an executive assistant role. So now you have just about everything delegated where I'm just focused on production. And then and only then, when you're earning several $100,000, say somewhere between $400,000 and $600,000 at a bare minimum, you can hire an agent on your team who can be a runner, who can be, you know, making calls, any of that, right? So it's like, it's just grow through profit, because profit is really freaking sexy. Okay, having a big team and a big name, I don't care about that. I just want to make a lot of money, right? So I hope that helps.
Yeah.
Mic drop. Dropping all the gold. What other questions do we have out there? Or is there anything else you want to hear in our last 8 minutes? Conversion? That might be fun.
Let's do it.
So for conversion, similar to like I had mentioned around prospecting, conversion, you need to think about in the sense of like, how fast can I get to touching this person? Not physically touching, but I'm saying through text message, phone calls, emails, letters, all that the whole nine, you know, voicemails. How many times, like, how fast can I get to 20 touches to this person? Because on average, you know, if you read the you know, all these books about sales, on average, 80% of all sales happen between the 5th and the 12th contact. Okay, which means that you're going to have to touch this individual, right, several times, mode of communication wise, right? So I'll give you a quick philosophy, right? In order to increase your conversions, you either need to, number one, increase the amount of the speed in which you touch somebody. Okay, so what that means is, if on average you're currently following up with somebody every month, you should follow up every 2 weeks. Okay. And like, if someone ever says like, oh yeah, call me back in a month, I will always cut the time in half and I will call them back in 2 weeks. Okay. If they say call me back in 2 weeks, I call you back in a week. Okay. And the simple script is literally just like, hey, I know you wanted me to call you back in 2 weeks. I just wanted to call you back and make sure that's still part of the game plan. Right. Like, I literally I reiterate right off the bat. So speed in which you touch, increase the modes of communication. So if you're only typically texting somebody, make a phone call first, then always leave a voicemail, then send a text message, then send an email, then send a handwritten letter. Right. So it's like, increase the modes of communication. Okay. And then number 3 is sort of like a mix of both, which is extend the period of time in which you are in communication with them. Right. Instead of following up with them one time, on average, most brokers don't even follow up at least once. I mean, like, it's like, I think it's like less than 50% of people follow up at least one time. Right. So it's like, I mean, which is freaking mind boggling. Right. So, but it's like, it falls off drastically after the freaking next contact. So it's like, realize like, hey, like, I'm going to touch this person 20 times over a year, right? Over a year period of time, no matter what, right? I'm just a person a year over to, 12 months. I have people right now that we touch base every single quarter, once a quarter and like, they're on a campaign where we will follow them every quarter for the next 5 years, right? Because they might not be looking to do something today, but I know eventually they will, right? Even the people who are saying absolutely no, like, no, I'm not interested. Don't call me back. Take me off your list. I'm still calling you.
I love that about the mode of communication, because, you never know somebody's style, right? Like, somebody might be more akin to respond to you on an email. Somebody might be more akin to like actually pick up the phone and talk to you. Maybe it's a text message for that person. So if you're not getting through, it doesn't mean you're not going to get through. Change your mode of communication as well.
And there's a lot of times where like, we'll call up a great client, right? We find out they want a great price. We're like, this is a really, really good deal. We need to figure out a way to get it. And then they ghost us. And we're like, oh my God, like, what do we do now? And then what we do is we play the hot potato game. We'll give the phone number to one of our other agents and say, hey, you call and see if you get through. And then the next agent, and then the next agent, and the next agent. And all of a sudden they get 2 calls a day, every day, from different phone numbers, but it's all our team. Right? They're going to answer one of us.
That's fabulous. I love it. Do we got any other questions out there? Let's hear from you. We've had so much good information this morning. I want everyone to have this information.
Question. So how do you separate your personal life from your now social media presence? Because I know a lot of us want to have private lives and want to have a separate life for that, and then our careers. How did you separate that and have that healthy, space?
Yeah. So my fiance is constantly like, hey, like, there's no pictures of us and all, like, so I've had to be very clear in my relationships that like my social media is for business, right? Like, end of story, case closed. It's for business, right? And if we ever post content about personal life, it's just because like, I like the picture or someone else. Like, I don't even have Instagram downloaded on my phone. Like, I don't have it on my phone. Okay. So like like it's just my team handles 100% of everything. So it's like being cognizant of like, hey, like for a period of time, I'm going to sacrifice. There's going to be I'm committed more to my goals than I am what people care about me on social media. Right. It's just like, I don't care. Like, it's not important. Like, who really cares what's being posted on your social media? Like, who do I really value their opinion of? And realistically, it's really not many people, you know?
I think that there's head shaking going on out there. I think that there's some people that resonates with. And and for me, I'll just add to that. I kind of figured out that I used to try to separate them, and I used to try to be this business person over here, and like, okay, now you can see me having fun on vacation or whatever over here. People don't really care. I mean, honestly, like they're not putting that much focus and energy on you anyway. So I don't think it's really a problem to merge the two. It just, your tribe will find you, right? Like one of the last deals that I just did, it's because a guy and I connected through physical fitness. Our algorithms must have been like working with each other. And so we're both gym junkies and we connected that way. And he referred me a nice warehouse lease, and it was through a DM on Instagram, and we connected because we had something personal in common. So I'd have missed out if I didn't post anything personal, but I
Yeah.
just wouldn't put so much attention on it. Don't worry about it. Just be who you are. Just,
Yeah, exactly. I don't think there's a percentage philosophy of personal versus professional or anything like that. It's just like post content that you feel is true to you, right? Like everything on my content is true to like true to me. I just don't care at all about sharing my personal life. I have no interest. I could care less, right? I don't care that what car I drive or what vacations I'm going on or all that kind of BS. I don't care, right? That's not what it's about. Right. So it's like, my team's like, constantly asking me for more personal stuff. And I'm like, I just don't care. I don't need to post more of that.
right on. What other questions do we have? We have time for one more question. So if you've been burning to ask something, this is your opportunity.
So you touched a lot on virtual assistants, and as far as you finding them and training them, right? That's kind of what the issue that I'm dealing with right now. So, you got the social content portion of it, and then I want maybe somebody to respond to certain emails and go through my email chain basically, and maybe return some calls or cold call for me, right? Those are kind of the issues that I'm dealing with. As far as finding a VA that you've used, did you go with a company? Did you train somebody offhand? Did you go to a university and get some college student to?
So, all right, like I'm gonna answer a few things all at the same time. Just I think it'll be valuable. Number one, a VA or an assistant period should only be doing things that are $5 or $10 an hour worth work. Okay. Like I will never have a VA make a cold call for me. That's freaking ridiculous. Prospecting is a $500 to $1,000 an hour job. It's like having a VA go on a listing appointment for you. It makes absolutely no sense. I would never do it. Right. So it's like every activity you have an assistant do should be things that I don't care who does it. It could be $4 an hour, $10 an hour, or $20 an hour. The point is that like those jobs are, just nonchalant tasks that anybody on planet Earth with a brain can do it. Okay. So like it's just being very cognizant, like, hey, like, get very clear on the tasks that they're going to do. Okay. That's one. Number two, now when it's like coming to find them or coming to train them, okay, you have to treat everyone like an actual employee. Like if you're going to hire somebody, okay, then they work for you. Okay. That means you are responsible for them in a lot of ways. Okay. You're putting food on their plate, right? Like you're putting food on their table. So it's like, you need to realize that like, hey, even if it's just a VA from the Philippines, which I have several, right? Where those individuals, you need to like make sure that they're constantly involved in the culture, growing culture, getting to know them. Like you don't just treat them like like trash. You gotta get to know them. Like we know their birthdays, we send them birthday cards, we give them gifts. Like treat them like really really well because you want them to stay with you, especially if they're doing a really good job, right? They can't hate what they're doing and hate the environment you put them in, right? So it's like when it comes to finding them, like keep it really easy. You go on Upwork, you go on Fiverr, or to be honest with you, you post on social media saying, hey, who here has had great success hiring a VA? Where did you find them? Right. And communicate with a bunch of people. That's how I found my first few VAs. It was just like referred by somebody, right? I didn't know like what the heck I was doing. Right. I Googled it and I posted on social media like, hey, looking for a VA who has some good success that can give me some guidance. Right. Go on Upwork and you can find some decent people. right? But just know if you're paying somebody $4 an hour, you're going to get $4 an hour work, right? Some people are just like, oh, they're doing such a terrible job. Like, to be honest, like, it's actually pretty good for $4 an hour. Let's be frank. I mean, come on now, right? And when it comes to like training and everything like that, creating a Loom video, creating content for them to say like, hey, like this is how you do it. Creating a process, a standard of operations, right? SOPs of for these individuals. Because like, think about it. If you're hiring somebody for $4 an hour, these people, okay, which I have several who do a decent job. It's not like they're getting a $4 an hour job because they're the best workers on planet Earth, right? They're willing to do a job for an affordable price. So I need to create a standard of operation for them. This is the process. Hey, follow it. And then based on their results, every day we do a check-in. At once a week, we have a little bit longer of a meeting, and once a month we have a monthly kind of check-in regarding their production levels, right? Like, or how well they're doing, right? Because if they suck, you shouldn't keep them around, right? And like, this is why like I will typically interview 5 or 10 people before I'll hire one person, right? And if they do a terrible job within their first 2 weeks, you're gone. It's okay, right? Like, I'm not attached. So I hope that answers most of your questions, but
Thank you.
sure.
I love it. Well, with that, we are officially 2 minutes past time. This hour has absolutely flown. But Henry, would you mind sharing some contact information in the chat with us? Maybe like a link to your YouTube, a website.
Yeah, so I would just say just Google my name anywhere. You're just like at Henry Eisenstein, literally on every platform. If you have any questions or anything and you want to reach out to me, it's the best way to do that is email me at info@henryeisenstein.com. Reach out, and I'm the person who handles 100% of the email. So,
Well, I speak for all of us when I say thank you so much for giving us your time. We understand that time is valuable. And I think everybody here has probably got several takeaways that's going to definitely change the trajectory of 2024. So thank you.
you're so welcome.
It's been
Thank you. I
awesome.
appreciate it.
Thanks, Henry.
Thank you
Appreciate
so
it.
much. It's a
Thank you.
pleasure.
Thanks, Henry.
It was a great
Thanks,
one.
Henry. Thanks,
you.
Pam and Frank for putting it together.
Awesome. Loved it. All right, guys, go kill it.
Have a great day, everybody.
Hey, everyone.
See ya.
Everybody.
You too.
First one to sell a warehouse wins.
Oh, Happy New Year.
Woo!